Okay. So all they told me was give a talk for people who may not all be dancers. Those are my instructions. So I've prepared a talk for you, and I'm assuming you're not all dancers. But I don't know you, and I don't know what your interests are. So first of all, if you don't understand my English, you know, I can't give this talk in Turkish. I'm sorry. But if you don't understand, please ask. And if you have questions through the talk, please ask. You don't need to wait to the end. I prefer to take your question as we go, and then maybe also that gives me some idea what interests you more in this topic. So what I want to talk to you about today is it's tango music. That's my thing. I teach people how to listen to tango music, and I tell stories about that time. It's an extraordinary time for the musicians in Argentina in the 20th century. They lived incredible lives and they made some incredible music. And it's a world music. I've given myself this rather provocative title, Ultimate World Music. And I'll try and justify that. Of course, in a way it's nonsense, but in a way it's true. Tango music is a world music, and an extreme kind of world music because of the different cultures. But even what is tango, actually? My first contact was with a dance, so I thought, okay, tango is a dance. And then I discovered, okay, well, it's also a music. It's not just a dance, there's a music. And this music is designed for the dance. It's a dance music. What dance music means has changed. Today, if I say dance music, it doesn't mean what dance music meant 50 years ago, 100 years ago. Before, dance music meant a music and a dance that are created together. Whereas now, if I say dance music, you think about something in the background, and in the front of that I can do my moves. But in the 20th century, it wasn't like this. The dance and the music evolved together. So I've got dance and I've got music, and then after a while, eventually, people start telling you, oh, but there's lyrics, there's poetry in this music. And what's that for? That's to help us connect to our feelings, so we can express our feelings through dancing. So there's three strands to it, and in the end, it's a culture. Tango is for the Argentines, it's a culture. It's a space that they move through. For us on the outside, it's these different things, but for them, it's a way of being in the world at a particular point in history, the last century. So, how do I get this to go? Let me just find my cursor. There we go. In the 16th to the 19th centuries, we took a lot of black people as slaves and we put them in the Americas. The educated white man in Western Europe did that. And as a result of that, three great musics were born. In the Caribbean, we got the music that eventually became salsa. First of all, the son montuno, then that moved off to New York, and we got the mambo, and finally salsa. In North America, we got blues music from the black people there. And as time went on and they collided more with white culture, we got jazz music and eventually swing. And in Argentina, we got tango. So tango starts around 1890, something like that. No one really knows. Around the end of the 19th century. Its great time of growth is the first part of the 20th century. In that time, there's 4 million immigrants from Europe who come to Argentina between about 1900 and, let's say, 1930. 4 million immigrants. And which country do you think they come from, mostly? Actually, it's the Italians. 2.7 million Italians. Most come because Italy's a very poor country in that time. And they all ended up here. They didn't all speak the same language, so they needed a language to talk to one another. And another factor was, at the beginning, was that there were many more men coming than women. And it created a society around the 1900s and the 1910s where actually it could be very difficult to find a partner. At certain times, the number of immigrants, men to women, was something like 10 to 1. The idea would be the man would go to work and maybe come back, or he would leave his family, try to establish himself, and if he could, then bring his family afterwards. So that was the social situation in which tango music was born. And before we do much more, I think because a lot of you are not dancers or tango dancers, so I think we need to just see some music and listen to some. The phrase they use in Argentina is this: orquesta típica. Típica actually in Spanish means traditional. It wasn't traditional. This was a marketing term that they invented to try and sell this music. But we should say dance orchestra. So all the music we're going to listen to today, in a way, it's pop music. Pop music just means popular music. That's all it means. Music that's come out of the people. So all the music we're going to listen to is pop music. It's what was in the charts, if you like, in the 30s, 40s, 50s and 60s. The difference between that music and pop music now is that everyone played their own instruments. And probably you had to play your instrument very well to be successful. And when the bands started, they're all very young. So in a way, they're boy bands. It's pop music and they're boy bands, but the kind of music that's being produced is something very different to now. So I'm going to show you a video. The video it's quite a late video. I chose it because it's in colour, and you can see what's happening. In terms of music, everyone's getting old in the band. The band leader, his name's Troilo, it's 1 year before he died, and he can't play the fast things anymore, and you see how much he's enjoyed his life, and he's become really, really fat. One of his nicknames is Gordo, the fat guy. He had many nicknames, but he was a great musician. As you watch the video, two things to look for. One is what kind of instruments make up this orchestra. Who's in charge? Which instruments bring the melody, bring the tune to you? Which brings the music to you? And one more thing, what is the mood of the music? Is it a happy music? Is it a sad music? Or is it changing its mood? Let's watch this. This is from an Argentine film from 1974. Don't worry, the band is coming. Here they are. That's Troilo, the fat guy. Listen now, what is the mood? Because it changes. Could you hear that? The beginning of the piece is quite bright. Then there's a point when he takes the music as a solo, and he plays very few notes. The music goes inside. Then they have a big finish. So I'm not saying all tango music is like this. This is just one orchestra. But to show you that there's more than one emotion that's possible. So this music offers us many emotions. And I think that's why the people who love it, that's why they love it so much. Two things I want to talk about. The first is, a lovely thing in this video is there's no sheet music anywhere in sight. None of the musicians are looking at their music. A working band, imagine what it was like in the 40s. A working band worked 7 days a week. In the morning, maybe you had to go to the radio station and give some live shows, 15 minutes, 4 times over 2 hours. Everything was live, wasn't recorded. Then, after that, you have to get together and rehearse. And in the evening, you play 3 live shows. One at 6, one at 9, one at midnight. You're playing until minimum 2 in the morning. Then you get home, you go to sleep, and you get up and you're on the radio 11 o'clock again the next day. And that's how they lived. If you're playing this much music, you need to have it memorized, and you need a lot of songs. A working band had more than 100 songs ready to go without music. No sheet music to look at. And the other thing is, if you're not a tango person, what's this strange instrument? Here. It's called a bandoneon. And I want to tell you a little bit about that. I got a picture here. The bandoneon actually comes from Germany. It's named after a German luthier, instrument maker called Heinrich Band, and sailors brought it to South America in around 1870, as best we know. It was designed for churches, like a small portable organ for a church that either could not afford an organ because they had no money, or they wanted something to play outside, maybe at the graveside, for example. So somehow this instrument arrived in Argentina and was taken up by musicians, and you can play this instrument with a lot of different emotions. In the video that we saw, he used it playing very few notes to play something quite introverted, and then at the end all of them together played something very bright. So it's become the essential instrument of tango. You can play tango with different instruments, but many of the great musicians say, no bandoneon, no tango. And I put a quote up here from one of the tango songs from the 50s. La última corrida, it's a really tough lyric. La última corrida means the final binge. A binge is when you go out and you decide to get drunk. And la última corrida means the final binge. And the guy sings, Lastima bandoneón mi corazón, tu ronca maldición me eleva. Tu lágrima de ron me lleva hacia el hondo bajo fondo, donde el barro se subleva. Those of you who like tango, you may recognize that. Bajo fondo, it's the name of a modern tango pop group. And it means down to the bottom. Bandoneón, he's singing to the instrument. Your wicked curse wounds my heart. Your tears of rum are dragging me down to the bottom where the mud bubbles up. So some really dark images and some dark tones you get from this. Any questions so far? No. Okay. I talked to you a little bit about the influences that created the music. First one is the influence of the black people and candombe. If you go to Argentina today, you don't see any black people. But if you went there at the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, you would have seen many, many black faces. we don't know what their music sounded like. The candombe is the name of the black native dance, and also a bit like the dance religion as you get in Cuba. But that's the name that they gave it in Uruguay and in Argentina. In South America, Buenos Aires is on one side of the Rio de la Plata and Montevideo on the other side. In Montevideo, capital of Uruguay, these traditions are still more alive. But the candombe was the black music with drums. It's African, after all. So at the beginning, very strong influence in the music. And the next one, eventually they began dancing in couples. Who danced tango first? We don't really know, but we've got some clues. Now, what's this crazy picture? Before the main immigration, so the main immigration happened when? Beginning of the 20th century, 4 million people. But before this time, there were already some Europeans settled, and they'd gone native. So we call this Creole culture. North America, South America, it's the same word. Creole means the immigrant population that's become native. And in Argentina, these were the gauchos. The gaucho is the Argentine cowboy out on the Pampas, which is this flat plain, perfect for raising cattle. Now, their music, there was two aspects to it. Pajador. The pajada is, here these guys are going to have a duel, like a fight, but with music. That's what the pajada means. And troubadours, that's the same word we have in English from the French language. A troubadour is someone who just strolls around and sings. Maybe something quite romantic. I didn't know if this picture would come out, but it does. If the Pampa is a vast, vast space, flat, mountains in the distance, and that's quite a lonely kind of place. And so you get a music. This, of course, is a modern recording, but this is music that has its roots in the music from this time. It's again an introverted and quite sad music. Now, as industry increased, a lot of these gauchos were forced to move to the city. From gaucho to compadrito. So here's a Argentine gaucho. This photograph is taken in about 1868. You see he's got his knife, always carry a knife. And when they lost their work in the countryside, they came to the city. So this guy, he's just the city version of this one. Yeah? He's still got his knife. And the classic, these things are almost cliches. Huh? Fungi, they say. The Homburg hat and the lenge, the white scarf. And this is a real cliche, maybe almost like a tourist image. Yeah? But look at the uniform. It's like a uniform. Same as this guy, although he probably hasn't got a knife. But don't think it's such a long time ago. I can tell you plenty of stories from the 40s or the 50s, like a guy arriving at rehearsal, he comes across town, sits down, takes his knife out, puts it on top of the piano, and starts playing. Or Troilo, the fat guy we saw in the video, he's been gambling, playing cards in a dodgy part of town, and as he walks home, he gets robbed. He gets held up by a guy with a knife, and then when the guy realizes who he is, he's so embarrassed. And he gives him all his money back, and Troilo starts walking across the bridge, back to the safe part of town, and then he shouts after him, "Oh, when you get to the other side, you'll meet so-and-so, who's the robber there." Is it? "Tell him I already robbed you." So this was a part of life the gauchos becoming the compositores. And the third influence is the Italians. Really. Now, what did the Italians bring? They brought melody. When you listen to the old music, it's quite... But the Italians brought their love of melody. First of all, folk song, Neapolitan folk song. But also opera. Why not? Let's listen to a little bit. This is Maria Callas. Great melodies, okay, but what about this for another melody? It's It's the same feeling, a love of beautiful melody. So the Italians brought that, and eventually this fused. All the musicians have got Italian names. De Mare, that's Lucio De Mare. We heard Troilo before. Canaro, D'Arienzo, Piazzolla. All Italian names. So they have a huge impact. In Argentina, something happened to them, maybe because of the difficulties of the situation, and the Italians created this wonderful music. So those are the really big influences in tango music. Exactly how it happened, we don't know. But the really golden time would be from about 1938 until about 1945. That's when the greatest music comes from. Two things to tell you about that. One is, before 1938, music for dancing was separate from the music for enjoying the lyrics. So mostly with the dance music, there wasn't a singer, or he only sang a very small part of the words. And the soloists, who did not sing with dance orchestras, they played and sang with guitar, so it wasn't music for dancing, they would sing the whole lyric. So there were two separate streams. And then the most famous soloist of all, his name was Carlos Gardel. He died in a plane crash. Today we don't know that name necessarily, but he was a superstar. He was a Latin American super celebrity. More than 1 million people came to his funeral. So it was a complete shock through South America. And everyone thought, what will happen now that who's going to be the next Gardel? But there wasn't a next Gardel. Instead, what happened was tango for singing and tango for dancing joined. So that the dance music presented lyrics to you, which enabled you to connect more to your feelings. So that's one thing. Another thing, 1938 to 1945, don't those dates sound familiar? It's about the time of the Second World War. So first of all, you're in a neutral country, while back in Europe, your families are being blown to bits. That's a very special situation. But another reason is the record companies cannot put foreign music into your country because everyone's busy fighting a war. So just for the years of the war, Argentine music was left by itself. No foreign companies were importing jazz music, for example, from North America, so it could develop its own thing. And there were two record companies who controlled the whole market. RCA Victor, it's Sony now, Sony Music, and Odeon, which now became EMI Music. Two huge companies, and they were international companies. So if they could import music, they would. But just for those years, because of the war, they couldn't do it, and the Argentines created their own music. And there was a dance explosion, which was paralleled, of course, in Europe and in North America. Everybody danced in those days. There were probably 400 working bands in Buenos Aires in the 1940s. In the UK, they think in this time on a Saturday night, 10,000 people were playing live music. Not all professionals, of course. A few professionals, some semi-professionals, and then amateurs, people just getting together on Saturday night to make music. But still, 10,000 people playing live music for dancing on Saturday night. Now I want to talk a bit about dance music and what are the layers in dance music. These days we have this phrase, the wall of sound. Is that Phil Spector? The wall of sound? Or a way of producing music. But for dancing, it's really helpful to separate the music out into 4 layers. First layer is beat. Beat is that. Just an impulse. And why is that important for dancers? Because a beat tells you when to put your foot on the ground. That's the way you make that sound. That's what beats are for. This music is just beats, huh? Beat, beat, beat. Not the same thing as rhythm. Rhythm is a pattern of beats. Okay, there's a rhythm there, but it's the simplest possible rhythm. What about this? In terms of rhythm, I think it's more interesting. So that's the rhythm, pattern of beats. Again, maybe telling you something about when to put your feet on the floor. Then what did you hear? Yeah, because it's possible to hear this music many ways. Yeah, I heard ya da 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 ya da da da. I heard the melody. That's what I took, the tune. But you could have heard dum 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 because that was happening underneath. Huh? But that wouldn't be very interesting. Huh? So, in this example, there's still beats going on underneath the melody, but hopefully the melody there draws you. I hope. And finally, lyrics. Now, we don't all understand Spanish, but you all have your feelings. That's what the point of lyrics. Now, I'll just give you a small example. Now, first of all, I should tell you, the singer here is a woman called Ada Falcon, and she's singing with the orchestra of Canaro. Now, Canaro is married, but he and this singer are lovers. Yeah? And they're singing a song called Te Quiero, I Love You. And who wrote it? Canaro wrote it. Okay. So, is this just a song, or is it maybe something about their lives? I think maybe it's something about their lives. Let's hear what she sings. I love you. As nobody ever loved you, and as no one ever will. I adore you. As you adore in life that man that you've just got to love. That one. I love you as you love life, as one loves life when life is good. The way you love a brother or a mother. These are Italians talking here, it's serious stuff. As you love in life just once and never again. So, imagine you're dancing and the singer sings that. Maybe it reminds you of a situation in your life. Maybe you loved someone in your life. Maybe you loved someone you shouldn't have. So that's what the lyrics are for. Even if you don't understand a word, you get an impression. The lyric is creating an atmosphere, the sound of the words. The video we saw, there was no singer, but again there were moods. Different moods come. So that's the fourth layer, really. Lyrics are about meaning. And I'm going to turn this list upside down now. Why? Because this relates to our body, isn't it? The beat and the rhythm, that's about when your feet hit the floor. That's how I make beats in my body. This is when you walk and step on the music. Melody is telling you how to move through the room. Te quiero. This kind of sweep of the phrase, this is in this part of your body. You can't do that with your steps. And then the lyrics, that's the meaning, your feeling. So it's your head and your heart. So as a dancer, I need to have that way up. And these four layers, it's a very useful skill. Melody is helping with my expression. The beats and the rhythm, when to place my feet on the floor. And then my feelings on top of that. Maybe through words, maybe not. It's dance music. So these four layers relate to our physical body, in a way. And I will add one more. You can make as long a list as you like of elements in dance music, but it's not helpful to have too many. But I will add one more, and that's dynamic. By dynamic, I mean a change in speed or a change in volume. So let's have some examples. Yeah? We've had an example of the lyric, just to give you an idea of dynamic. Can you hear? The music's like in little waves. Yeah? So it's not always flat. Swelling in the music. And this is a very expressive thing. Even for the musicians enjoy playing that. And as dancers, that's something one can really enjoy. If there's too much, we can't follow it. Okay, now, dancing to the beat. Beats are not the same. Now, I'm talking about tango music, but you could apply this to any kind of dance music. There are different kinds of beats. And why does this matter? If beats tell me when to walk, then the quality of the beat will affect the quality of my walking, maybe. Maybe, even as a tango dancer, I'll walk differently to different kinds of beats. So let's just listen to a few beats so you have an examples. Very staccato, choppy, sharp beat. Or this one. Soft, gentle. Feeling is different. Or this one. Super sharp, digital. It's like a piece of paper. The sharpest kind of beat you could have. Or this one. It's more old-fashioned. You can hear it's an older music. But can you hear the beat is long? Yeah, a beat is not an instant in time. It has length. Or this one. Another soft beat, or this one. Now here's the arrastre. Jump, 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 jump. Can you hear that? In Spanish you write it this way, but It's a trap for beginners. The letter Y in Argentina is pronounced je. So this is how they write that sound. Jum, jum. Something very special in tango music. It gives a different way of walking. Jum. It's a way to roll your foot and push. And let's just quickly explain how they do that in the instruments. Can you hear them? So there's the bandoneon. Could you hear that? Is that loud enough? Jum. We saw the bandoneon before. The bandoneon is very heavy. The boxes at the end, there's wooden boxes, and inside some metal plates. So it might weigh 10 kilos. So mostly the guys are playing like this. They hold the instrument over their leg and let gravity do the work. Zoom. And then you get this sound. In the strings, if you want to make a noise like that, it's the difference between whether the bow is moving first or whether you put the bow on the string and then move it. Start with the double bass because it's an easy one to hear. Can you hear that? Yeah? So that's how they make it. Violins will be the same thing. And if everyone in the band does it together, you get a sound like that. Only 6 people playing there. Piano, double bass, 2 violins, and 2 bandoneons. But if everyone makes this sound, you get this. Zoom. I don't know if you get it in other kinds of music, but it's something really characteristic about tango music that makes a good feeling for walking. Now, there's no time to tell you everything about the rhythm, so let's just do one thing. Syncopation. Any professional musicians in the room? The only reason I ask this is even musicians don't agree what's the definition of syncopation. I have my own answer as a dancer, but we don't have to struggle now. Learning Spanish really helped me. Or maybe there's some doctors, because syncope, what does syncope mean in medicine? It means if your heart doesn't beat regularly the way it should. So syncopation means when the beat doesn't come when you expect. Basically. So it creates a surprise, but hopefully not too much of a surprise. And there's one kind of syncopation you use a lot in tango. They call it syncopa a tierra, means on the earth. This one, listen to this. Very characteristic of tango music. No syncopation. Is there tango? Maybe, maybe not. But most music has got some syncopation in it. We save that for another time. And the melody, the tune, can be presented to us in 2 ways. Digital and analog. Well, there's digital melodies in tango music. Listen to this. That's digital melody. They call it rhythmic melody. You imagine you take the melody and you just digitize it. But you can also do it, this they call singing melody. Very different impression. Huh? In both those tunes, the idea was the same, a scale that goes up, but one creates this feeling, and another one creates this smooth feeling. And sometimes you'll get both at once. I'll give you an example here. This is a tango called Pensalo bien. It means think about it. The woman's about to leave the man, and the man says, think about it. Because if you go, maybe I don't let you come back. So now we're coming back to the beginning of the music. You're going to get this digital melody underneath. So there's two layers now, two layers to listen to. The bottom layer, but on top the violins are singing. Can you hear this? Underneath. The violin is easy to hear, but underneath. So, two ways to present the melody, and in practice they're using both. Sometimes in layers, sometimes moving between one and another. I'll give you an example of that here. Digital. Which gives you the opportunity to move differently on those two phrases. Again, I don't know other kinds of dance music are like that, but with tango music, it's really important. Different feeling in the body. I'll tell you one more thing about melody. The Spanish word is fraseo, in English, phrasing. What we mean by that is, well, let's listen, actually, that's the easiest way. It means simply not to make all the notes exactly the same value. I play two versions of the same song. I'm not saying one is good and one's bad. They're both good. So this is, we'd say, strict tempo, fixed time. Now another one, same song, different orchestra. That wasn't the same, was it? Let me try and find the beat. Can you hear what's going on in there? There's two guys having a conversation. The bandoneon player, in fact it's the same one we saw before, and he's having a conversation with his pianist. But they don't share the time equally. The first guy takes too long. So the other guy has to rush. But even that, he starts fast and he slows down. Compare the first one again. Strict time. Not bad, just different. Fun for dancing. Or that's a way to put expression into the music. This video is from the orchestra of D'Arienzo, which was like the first really big boy band. This is recorded in Uruguay, 1962. Now D'Arienzo, he started life as a violin player, but he was such a bad player, not even second rate, he was third rate. When they got their first contract on the radio, it was written in the contract, but you can't play. That's how bad he was. So he stands in the front and he's just conducting. Now, as you watch the video, ask yourself, what is he doing? Because he's doing something, okay? He's not just an extra person organising the concerts and earning money. He's doing something. So ask yourself that. Another thing to watch, I know the picture's not so clear, but when it's moving, it's a bit easy to see. You've got the line of bandoneons always sitting at the front. Now, the two most important ones will be sitting in the middle. And you can see how these two guys are connected to the leader. So he's conducting them in a way, and you see them turning to each other a bit, but also keeping an eye on him. Let's watch. It's like a devil, huh? This guy in particular, see how he's looking at him? They're connected. They're headbangers, huh? With their guitars. Now they show off this section. He's a devil driving them on. And that guy there, Lazari, his name is, his nephew, the son of his brother, after he retired, Lazari there gave him all the arrangements, all the sheet music, and he started a new band. So there's a band of 20-year-old boys playing this music now in the style. When they play live, it's so exciting. You can't sit still. When this is going, you can't just sit there. Like your body starts to move, your foot starts to go. It's really exciting. And then I feel, what could it have been like to dance in those days when there were live bands like this playing every night? It was an amazing time. Our time is up. Thank you very much. Thank you.